We are inching closer to the Iowa caucuses, which are now just 22 days away. Presidential candidates hard on the campaign trail trying to gain support. Donald Trump holding a rally in Iowa last night. Today, he will be headed to the West Coast for a rally in Nevada. Fox News polls show that he is still the favorite among all candidates. In the big picture nationally, he's the frontrunner with 35% support, holding a 15-point lead over Senator Ted Cruz. But it is a different story in the early voting state of Iowa. Senator Cruz leading there with 27%. Donald Trump sitting in second place there with 23%. Joining me right now on the telephone is Donald Trump, presidential candidate and real estate mogul. Donald Trump, good to have you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Maria.
I want to get to those polls in a moment because I know that I'm sure you want to talk about them. They're certainly good news once again. But let me begin with this beginning to the year in the stock market. Worst beginning to any year with that S&P 500 decline last week of 6%. What do you think is behind this meltdown?
Well, if you look at the rest of the country, it's not doing well. The jobs are few and far between. You know, you have the phony statistics where they show 5%, 5.5%, 5.2%. I mean, the real number is probably well into the 20s because people give up looking for jobs. And statistically, they're taking off the roll. So you don't really see how bad the picture is. And I think very importantly, the quality of the job. They're all talking about, boy, these are really bad jobs we're talking. You know, if you look at the jobs and the quality of the job, people are saying it's at an all-time low. So that's not a very nice statistic to have. So it's not doing well. The country's not doing well, and I think now the stock market maybe is catching up with the country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned jobs because obviously we got the jobs number out on Friday, and it, in fact, was better than expected when you look at that part of the economy. But you make a great point because there are other areas like exports, like commodities, that are plummeting. So if you were to win and become the president of the United States, what would you do about it? How do you fix the economy?
Well, I'd be the greatest jobs president. I would bring jobs back from China. I'd bring jobs back from Japan. I'd take jobs back from Mexico. We're losing our businesses. I mean, they're devaluating their currencies. You look at what China's doing with its currency. It's unbelievable. Now they want to devalue further to get out of their problems. And you look also, Vietnam, a lot of other places are happening now, and they're killing us with currency. And we make better product. I mean, we have an ability to make great product, but we don't get a chance to make it because they beat us financially and they beat us like a drum.
Yeah, but you say you want to put a 45% tariff on the products coming into this country. Isn't that going to make all products so much more expensive for American consumers?
Yeah, no, I didn't say that, Maria. What I said is this. People asked me a number of questions. They were asking me, how do you solve North Korea? Well, China should be solving North Korea. They have total power. You know, they say they don't. They say, really, we don't have as much. They're doing that to taunt us. They have total power over North Korea. I say we can beat them so badly. We have such power over China with trade because we have rebuilt China. They have taken so much out of our economy in terms of money that we have a lot of power over China. They should solve the North Korea problem. As far as trade is concerned, if China doesn't play fairly, which they're not playing, and they haven't for many years, because they beat us with devaluation, with nothing else. If China doesn't play fairly, we should tax their product coming in. Now, they're going for more. You know, I don't know if you know it. They had the largest devaluation in their history about 3 months ago. Now, and by the way, that devaluation, largest in 2 decades. Now I hear they want to devalue again.
Right.
And all it means is that our businesses are going to be unable to compete with China.
Just to be clear, I want to get to North Korea for sure, Mr. Trump, but you did say you want to have a 45% tariff on exports coming into this country, correct?
No. I said that if they don't behave,
then you're going to put a 45%
that would be commensurate.
tariff.
Yeah.
Right.
And I said if they don't behave, if they don't stop doing what they're doing with the devaluations in particular, I also said we'd do something if they don't solve the North Korea problem, because they can solve it. They can solve it with a phone call. Okay, right. That's the power they have over North Korea.
So my question
and if they don't solve that, I would think about doing a tariff or a tax on goods coming in. Yes, I would.
45%?
No, it could be as high as 45%. What I said is the number that they should pay based on the kind of destruction that they've done with their devaluation is the equivalent of a 45% tax.
Okay. So wouldn't that make American products that much more expensive for the American consumers? You're talking about a big
tax. You'd also make a lot more products. And you know what would happen? A couple of things. Number one, I don't think you'd ever have to impose it, because when this happened, China would start behaving very rapidly. So I don't think it would ever happen. If it did happen, our country would take in a lot, and it wouldn't necessarily be 45%. It could be a lot less than that. But our country would take a lot of money in. We would be bringing in. You know, we do have huge deficits. And if you look at our trade deficit with China, have you taken a look at that lately? We're talking about $400 to $500 billion a year. So, you know, you say, what are we doing? We're losing $400 to $500 billion a year in terms of a trade deficit with China. So we have to shake it up. We have to get Carl Icahn, and we have to get our great business people to negotiate for us, because we have people negotiating our deals with China, with Japan, with Mexico, with all of these countries that are eating our lunch. We have people negotiating that half of them are political hacks that, frankly, have no business ability. We have people that don't understand what's going on.
You were talking about business and Wall Street at your rally over the weekend, and you said you pledged to tax Wall Street, and you said that you were talking about the stock market meltdown, and you said you're not going to allow Wall Street to get away with murder. What do you mean?
Well, I think Wall Street, to a certain extent, has carried interest. The various things that they have, they've gotten away with murder. You look at the economy. The economy is not exactly very robust in terms of, we're sitting on a big, fat, beautiful bubble that's waiting to explode. In my opinion, I think it may be the beginning. What you saw this first week of the new year, which is an all-time record, as I understand it. I mean, I hear it's the worst first week ever recorded. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully the bubble won't be there.
Right.
Of course, if the bubble is going to explode, I'd rather have it explode before the next president rather than after the next president.
I'm sure. So you think there's more selling to come? You think this bubble, as you call it, continues to burst?
Yeah, I think there's more to come. I think a lot of these companies, I'm looking at these internet companies where they make, here we go again with the internet, right? But I'm looking at a lot of the tech companies, and they don't make money, and with all of the problems and everything else, they don't make money, and they're setting new records in terms of stock price. And we've seen that pony before, haven't we? So
yeah, absolutely, in the 90s for sure. So I guess voters really want to understand better what you're going to do with taxes. You say, you're going to make sure to keep Wall Street accountable. You mentioned carried interest. In other words, you don't want hedge fund managers to be able to manipulate earnings and call it capital gains when it's really ordinary income, so that they're taxed.
I'm a big fan of the banking industry, of Wall Street. I've been, I've done very well. I'm very happy with, I built a great company. I haven't so much based it on Wall Street. I based it on deals and making good deals, but I built a great company, and I understand the power of Wall Street if properly taken care of. And Dodd-Frank is a disaster, I think, and, things have to be done with that. I think Wall Street would like to hear that. And I'm a pro-Wall Street person, but at the same time, we have to use Wall Street right. It's a tremendous power that we have with Wall Street. There's nothing like it, and we have to use it right. At the same time, we have to give great incentive to them to go out. And I can say on a semi-related topic, the banks are run by the regulators today. They're run so badly. And I have friends that are, good people and not necessarily very wealthy people, but very good, business people. They can't borrow money today unless you're really, really rich.
Right.
And you have far more money than you want to borrow. The banks aren't loaning money. So these people that want to start up businesses in our country, they can't do it. And I'll sometimes call a banker giving a reference to a friend of mine that wants to start a little business, and the banker will say, Donald, you have no idea how bad it is. We don't run the banks anymore. They're run by the regulators.
Real quick, Donald, you've said in terms of national security, when it comes to Russia and ISIS, you said, look, let Russia fight them in Syria. Just at the beginning of the interview, you said, look, North Korea, that's China's biggest problem. Let China deal with it. How do you justify America leading if, in fact, you're saying let everybody else fight these battles and fight the bad actors? Is that America leading, or is that President Obama's doctrine, lead from behind?
The way I look at it is this. You have North Korea. You have South Korea right next to it. I always say I order thousands and thousands of televisions a year. They're all made in South Korea, whether it's Samsung, LG. They're made in South Korea. Every time I order it, South Korea gets huge checks, right? And so, they're a monster. They are absolutely a behemoth in terms of economics, an economic behemoth. Now, we're sitting there with 28,000 soldiers on our line between North Korea and South Korea. We get paid almost nothing. We get paid peanuts. We're not being paid. These countries, these are wealthy countries. These aren't startup nations. These are wealthy, wealthy countries.
Right.
They've got to start paying up. We owe $19 trillion, Maria. $19 trillion. Now with this terrible budget deal that were made just recently by the Republicans, because they're the ones that approved it. Nobody could believe it. It went so fast. With this terrible deal, we're going to be at $21 trillion in terms of what we owe very soon. Okay? I mean, we just can't keep going like this.
Right.
So we protect, as an example, Japan, Germany, South Korea, Saudi Arabia. All of these countries we're protecting. We're getting peanuts compared to the cost of what we're doing. We got to get more money. I'm very good at that.
Donald Trump, good to have you on the program this morning. Thanks so much. I'm going to see you on Thursday in South Carolina for the next GOP debate.
Maria. I look very much forward to it.
And I as well. Thank you very much. Donald Trump joining us.
Thank you very much.
Don't miss the next Republican primary debate. It is Thursday on the Fox Business Network. We hope you will join us. It's happening in North Charleston, South Carolina, with the early debate beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern, moderated by Sandra Smith and Trish Regan. And the primetime debate beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll be serving as moderator alongside anchor and managing editor of Business News, Neil Cavuto. Join us Thursday on the Fox Business Network.